it or not, our perspectives will always change with time. Our lenses, the lenses with which you look at everything will always change with time. The moment I'm young, my perspective is about that person who is energetic, strong, the person who has life ahead of them, and so everything that I do will be driven by that particular way of thinking. The moment I become a parent, my perspective will automatically shift. Nobody is ever rigid enough to say that. Nobody can confidently say, I have the thinking I have today is the one I had at 20, the one I had at 15. Our perspectives will always be different. That is why men and women, our thinking is entirely different. Young and old, our thinking are entirely different. Depending on whatever end of the spectrum we're born, rich or poor, our thinking is entirely different. Let nobody lie to you just because you're of the same age. You are likely to think the same. Although there's an average perspective, there's an average way of thinking based on the age that you are. But the lenses with which you look at it is depending on which side of the spectrum you're born. So when you become a parent, automatically most of what you think about will be driven by the lenses of a parent. You're more careful, you're more cautious, you're more driven by wanting to help, you wanting to save, wanting to be there for somebody else, wanting to be responsible, because you understand now you're not just about yourself, you're under somebody else. The moment you get to be in charge of other people, you stop thinking about yourself entirely. Now you have to start thinking about, yes, I'm making this decision for me, but also there are other people who depend on me. So the decision that you make does not entirely have to be pinned on you and you alone. It involves everybody else. So there's that way of thinking before you get to the agenda. There are so many levels of thinking that we get to have. Let nobody tell you that you will always be this and be rigid on one particular spectrum of thinking. All of us are different, but it's in our differences, based on what age you are, based on where you are, whether you're male or female, based whether or not you have resources or not, whether or not you're employed or you're a business person. Each of these elements play into the decision that we make. So whether or not we like to admit it, we're entirely different on different levels. So we can each not entirely advise so and so to do this and that. Most of the people who would say, today I want to tell the president to do one or two things, are people who are not entirely responsible to so many people. So you cannot entirely say that this is what this guy ought to do, because you've not been responsible for so many. Even the scripture itself says, to him whom much is given. So understand, much is required not from him to everybody else, but much is required from him to the one who gave the authority to that particular individual. So our way of thinking and pattern is driven by the lenses with which you look at it. When you're a parent, your thinking is different. When you are an only child, your thinking is different. When you're born in a family of 10 children, your thinking is different. When you become a single parent, your thinking is different. When you're in a family, when you union, your marriage is still together, your thinking is different. So the problem of averaging every advice that is given to you because you think this woman is giving a good advice, I'll listen to them. This man is giving a good advice, I'll listen to them. Don't take every advice just because somebody else gave it. That is a mistake that we take sometimes in the religious space, because just because this individual is good in the religious interpretation, this person is good at preaching, then you give them, you want them to advise you on how to better make career moves. You want them to advise you in your business. You want them to advise you in your individual personal life. You want them to advise you in understand that this person may be good as a preacher, but they're not good as a business person. They may be good as a preacher, but they're not professionally good at counseling. They cannot counsel you. They may be good as a preacher, but they do not have individual businesses that enables them to be able to have an authority to advise you. They may be good at that particular end of that particular side, but they're not good at helping you learn how to organize and structure your way professionally as an individual. So know when to draw the line between when somebody is an authority in a specific area and when they cannot. That is the same thing that happens even with our parents. Much as we may love our parents, understand there are limits to how much they can be able to help you, and your ability to be able to understand that enables you to respect them and also know that their decision you'll have to make outside of their guidance, outside of their counseling, outside of their counsel, so that you can move forward, not in a condescending manner of thinking they cannot advise you because they have not reached where you are, but because they do not have the understanding that you have based on the exposure that you have, based on the decision that you've made, based on the risks that you've had to take, based on the environments that you've been through, and understood the pattern of those who have succeeded in that particular space. So don't be used to taking advice from everybody else just because you think this person is good in this particular space, so I'd like them to advise me in this. Because this is a media personality who has succeeded in that particular space. Don't let them advise you in your personal life. Don't let them advise you in your professional life, in your career moves. That is, if you're self-employed, this is an unemployed individual. These are two different ways of thinking. Your pattern is about you trying to build something for yourself. This is an individual who is employed. They take orders from somebody else and they have to make decisions based on what the employer wants. So their thinking is not entirely about what they want, but what the employer wants. You want to make decisions based on what your personal goal is, what your vision is, what you want to build for yourself, what impact you want to have. So these are two different ways of thinking. Because once one is successful in a different area, does not necessarily mean that they have the authority to advise you in all the other areas of your life. Do not make the mistake of taking every advice that you give it. Even myself, I'm wrong on so many levels, and I accept that I made a mistake here. This person knows better than I do, I'll ask them about this. This person knows better than I do in this particular space, I'll ask them about this. So do not assume, think, or believe that just because somebody is good in an area and you want them to mentor in that particular area, then they should mentor and hold your hand in every space, every aspect of your life. Be able to draw the line between where this person can professionally assist you and where this person is not authorized to. Not because you're looking at them out of your life, but because you understand they are not an authority in that particular space. Have people who you look up to in different areas. Have people who you understand they are authorities in these particular spaces. We have people who, so many speakers. We have people like Vusi, who is one of the best speakers on the continent currently, and he is good as a public speaker, but more specifically in the financial space. So he dives deeper into that particular space. We have preachers like Julian Kula, who is a preacher, but also has the understanding and the profession. He understands the financial space. So he dives deep into that particular end. We have other people who are good in other spaces, although they are on authority in one area, but they have the professional understanding on different aspects. So when they advise you on the professional front, there is that understanding, but don't take it as an authority just because this person is a good preacher, they should advise me in this. Because this guy is a good teacher, you should advise me on this. Because this guy is a good footballer, he's succeeded as a footballer. What do you think about young talents? What do you think about the behavior of people today? What do you think about the young people today? When you're a young person, you think as a young person. When you become a parent, your lenses automatically change. When you are trying to build something, there's a thought process that you have. When you've built and have an empire, your thinking is entirely different. So on different levels that we are, our thinking is different. So it does not give us an authority in all the other areas of our lives. Be able to draw the line and understand when to ask for advice, when not to, when you need to hold your frame, and no matter what, giving up, and when to let go and say, I have tried my best. If this was the last, I'm glad I did the best that I could. And above everything else, the best words that you can ever say to yourself is this, that no matter what happens, if this is the last of it, I'm glad I did the best that I could. But if it's not, then I would die trying to give life to this. So always understand there are limits to how much better you can do, and there are limits, there are boundaries, there are borders, there are areas where you can never get to because you do not have the professional understanding. Grow